Now, ladies and gentlemen, we may proceed for the next session. And it's going to be the second set of panel discussion. And we're going to discuss about procurement to retirement. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a moderator, Ms. Deepti V. Dutt, Head Strategic Initiatives, Public Sector, AWS. A very quick information about her. She has a vast experience of over 21 years, a focus area of smart infrastructure, cities, utilities, and transport, with digital, agriculture, and government tech programs. She played a strategic role in Aadhaar projects, designed and executed various proof of concepts and pilots to evolve the same. Ladies and gentlemen, we have panelists. The first one, Mr. Vinayak Misra, Senior General Manager, Services, Schneider Electric. Mr. Kunal, Virmani, APAC, Leader, Asset Management Solutions, IBM. Mr. T. Srinivas, Director Projects, TSSPDCL. Mr. Mohan Reddy, Director, TSNPDCL. And last but not the least, Mr. Srinivas Murthy, AGM, IT, BESCOM. So I hope this session is going to be very, very interesting because we have the best panelist and a moderator with us. So I would request a moderator, Ms. Deepti Dutt, to please take it forward.
Thank you everyone for making time for this session. Glad to be hosting this excellent panel of super experts from respective areas. When we talk about smart metering, there is so much of discussion going on around the connectivity part of it and HES, MDM. I think another critical, if you go back and look at the objective of starting the 250 million smart meters rolled out in the country, I think one of the key objectives it's trying to address is how do we bring down AT&C losses from above 22% currently in India to less than 10%. And smart metering has been thought as one of the key levers that will at least help us bring down the commercial losses. I think what's also important in the overall AMI infrastructure is to pay attention to how to do asset management, overall asset lifecycle management. And therefore, I think this topic is very timely and very pertinent in this entire discussion around smart metering, that how do we look at overall smart metering solution holistically with respect to asset lifecycle management, and not just get limited to HES MDM system. So happy to be having this session. If Mr. Ashok Tyagi is already there in the call, sir, can I start the discussion with the first question to you?
Yeah, we can start, yes.
Okay. My question to you is that when we talk about assets in an AMI implementation, mostly the focus currently is smart meters. Can you give us a little bit more detailed view of what are other assets that we need to look into, the order of importance that should be focused in the AMI implementation for this mission to be really successful and really bring down the AT losses?
Smart meter is the only one component of the AMI system. Smart meter is not the only component. AMI is a complex infrastructure network consisting of smart meters, of course. Then there is a communication infrastructure, head-end system, MDM, and cloud storage. So this smart meter, its role is to communicate the data of the consumer at a regular interval over the communication network, as well as to receive the data or receive the command from the utility operations. So this is the major role of the smart meter. Then there is a communication infrastructure. It is the reliable medium for two-way communication between various nodes and the head-end system. There are many technologies at present. GPRS is there, then PLC, RF mesh, NB-IoT. So, and every technology has its own limitation as well as the cost impacts. So we have to very carefully select the technology for communication infrastructure. Then there is a head-end system. It is a software application running on the central hardware, and it used to acquire data from the meter and give the data to the MDM and vice versa. For that, there is a meter data management system, MDM. This is the main heart of the all these infrastructure, because all the data from the meter is received here and it is validated here. Then it is used for upstream work like billing system, customer care, then analysis, reporting, network planning. So all these are the various component of the smart metering system. Moreover, in the present scenario, I am talking about the utilities point of view, that utilities have expertise in procurement of the meters, or for the sake, smart meters. But procurement of infrastructure, communication infrastructure, MDM, etc., this is a tough decision, because we have to plan what are the best technologies available, and also when we scale up, because most of the program are going on in small scale or a particular area of the utility. But when this is expanded, then all these infrastructure, MDM, then this should be scalable. And there should not be any issue that interoperability issue is there or all other issues. So we have to take care while designing our contract that provisions for AMC should also be there, as well as we should not dependent on a particular supplier or particular vendor for our future requirement. So all these infrastructure of the AMI, this should be decided carefully, planned carefully, as well as with a future vision, because ultimately this smart metering is to be rolled out throughout the discoms for all consumers. So we have to take care that thing while designing, while deciding the all infrastructure. This is the main focus, and different components we should take care.
Thank you, sir, for those insights. Since you touched upon procurement, and that's the very first stage of asset life cycle. So let me come to Mr. T. Srinivas. It's procurement is one of the key activities in asset life cycle management, right? What is your view on prevailing procurement process for AMI devices applications in India? And what are your thoughts on how it all can be improved? How meters and communication systems are being brought today. So if you can just talk as a utility perspective, how do you think we can have better procurement, how we can improve the procurement part of it? So Mr. Srinivas, over to you.
Superintendent Engineer of SCADA Systems. Our projects director, sir, has nominated me to participate in this because he is attending a very important meeting there. So I want to enlighten the things on the AMI systems we have adapted here, because we have only adapted 8,820 meters as a pilot project here in the area. So we have got RF mesh and GPRS as a communication hybrid system. Now we are able to get the system intact for the last 1 year. So in my opinion, and our company is also thinking like this. Normally we have got so many electronic meters already placed, and remotely we are able to read them. Of course, optical meter reading system is there. So we can upgrade the meters if any technology is available by retrofitting with hardware, and we want to have the hardware infrastructure in such a way that the cost benefit will be achieved by the company. The cost incurred for RF mesh and our data management system, MDM and meter, everything we have to integrate them. So the existing meters in a phased manner we can replace with the smart meters. Before that, we want to have a better solution as a technical solution to embed into the existing energy meters, electronic energy meters, so that we will reduce the cost. That is the first principle we are thinking of. And of course, the Software system is the main important one for the smart grid system. The smart meter, whatever the communication process is there, it's already existing. Okay. But the protocols, whenever we purchase meters, the different manufacturers will provide some different protocols. Thereby, the integration is a big task for us, and the long-term benefits also will be decided in such a way, so that we want to have a better solution for having the standardized protocols for every smart meter in India, of course, so that we will have the better competition among the and also we'll replace each and every meter whenever we want with any manufacturing meter. That is our plan of action now as a proposal. Thank you.
Very much for that. Now since you talked about that you're currently working with about 8,000 meters and those systems are stabilizing and you're looking at integration issues and things like that. So with that, Mr. Mohan Reddy, can I come to you? We are going to very soon scale from 8,000 to 2 million meters and things like that. So two things if you can share with us. How are you looking at all the integration coming together, legacy systems, all those things are related to data. And second is around data warehouse storage and acquisition transformation of assets, right? One is we are looking at 1 million meter that will be deployed, as well as we have that will get removed from the system, right? How are we looking at handling all the storage, warehousing of all these large volume assets and including all the data warehouse integration of these assets?
It is some disturbance in audio communication. However, in our discussion so far, we have not implemented the AMI for this one, for the consumer side, but only we have implemented for the feeder metering. And feeder metering we have implemented for all the substation to get the data from the feeders. And we have used GPRS system. But there is a problem in GPRS also. Only 60% of the meters are read and 40% are unmetered. And we are monitoring how to get the data or by changing the network infrastructure, the communication infrastructure. By whatever the network available is there, we want to change that SIM. Like that, we want to read all the meters of the feeders. Then coming to the consumer side, as of now, we have not installed any meter, and it requires a huge investment. Our finance is very weak, and recently the government of India also communicated the revamped result-oriented scheme and other things. If once government funded some amount, we go for metering at least in towns and other things. Okay, over to you.
Thank you. Mr. Kunal Virmani, let me come to you. I mean, I'll build on to the question that I had earlier posed. We're looking at humongous amount of data getting generated, right? Every million meter that. So Kunal, let me come to you. We're talking about, I'll build on to the question that I had asked to Mr. Reddy also. So, we're talking about, say, every million meter rollout that we talk about. We are looking at humongous amount of data getting generated. Every 15 minutes frequency, you have data getting generated. And, currently the large use of this data is seen for billing and operations purposes. But do you think that, that this kind of data that is getting generated, it can actually be used for asset usage optimization itself or asset lifecycle management improvement itself? And, what new use cases, what do you really think that this data can help us with?
Yeah, very relevant in today's scenario. Thanks, Deepti, for the question. So yeah, I mean, if you look at, of course, the main usage of AMI implementation or smart meter is billing revenue related. But, collecting this data, other than that, this will allow utilities to understand their assets and the performance. Now, whether you talk about device diagnostic, device operations, and age, help identify, predict and determine the field activity necessary to maintain these devices. This is all part of the asset lifecycle management. I would take a cue from Mr. Tyagi. He also said that AMC is a big issue. Now, AMC means warranty. Now, warranties are linked to all their assets, whether they're part of just the meter or the whole network, the communication network. So this again is a key aspect on asset lifecycle management. Now, giving an example, right? Most utilities rely on the scheduled replacement of meter and the module batteries to reduce the likelihood of failed operation due to a dead battery. I mean, I'm just giving one example. Now, these scheduled replacements often occur between when the battery has reached the end of life, its useful life, or there has been some alarm that has been captured by the head end to determine the right time to replace these batteries allows for the optimal use of this asset. Again, so all this is not just billing data or not just the usage for the billing and the revenue. Now, all these meters these days are bidirectional, with bidirectional characteristics. So these are like new generation of smart meters we are talking about, which allows the utilities to execute business analytics at the end or edge, we call it these days. Now, whether it's an IoT-based device or any other sensor, which is which may be a new sensor, these are generating alerts real time, and heaps of data is being generated. Now, if this is fed with an anomaly in an asset management system, in an asset management system, and which detects an anomaly, it can issue a work order based on what has happened. Now, again, this is like real-time information coming back to the asset management system and helping throughout the asset lifecycle management of those meters. So at the end of the meter life, for example, in the rare cases when a meter becomes faulty or is damaged, there has to be a process to place to triage or fault manage and recycle the removed meter using fully industry compliant procedures. Now, this is like, I have installed the meter, I'm using it, the O&M activities continue, and at the end of the day, it needs disposal. So that is again part of the whole asset lifecycle management, which will only come through the data which the smart meters are generating. Now, just to finally articulate the benefits we are talking about, and these are the utilities, not just in Asia, across Americas, and of course in India. That what are we doing, right? There is a resource saving, while we are eliminating a lot of manual investigations on what is happening using a proper asset lifecycle management system, and getting an automated alerts, notifications are all part of it. So this will also reduce device management overhead. And MDM was touched by both Mr. Reddy and Mr. Srinivas and Mr. Tyagi, right? So this is an important thing. And of course, what will all this do is help you improve the service quality, improve the business operations performance, reliability, responsiveness, and of course, you continuously monitor your distribution network based on whatever data you're getting through these meters.
It's interesting. Yeah, thanks, Kunal. Interesting point that how you can actually use this data getting generated by smart meter to trigger preventive asset management itself, right?
Yeah.
Now let's move from just pure play asset management. Just these. Again, I don't really see these as very advanced. And if I talk about AI/ML kind of a scenario, so again, these are not really AI/ML use cases. If I have to move on to even that higher level, in your experience, other countries elsewhere, have you come across any AI/ML based solutions on this data, and how do you improve asset optimization or anything else? What do you really think can be done out of all this, so much of data being generated by smart meters?
Yeah, so I would come to one particular use case which caught my attention, and across utilities in other markets as well, is when any utility implements this AMI, they have suddenly millions of additional assets to manage, right? Given the size of our sheer population in India, it's actually close to 1 billion if we want to really roll out to all across India. Now, many utilities workforces especially the aging ones, right? Or technically not very effective immediately. They are not fully equipped to manage this new rollout of assets, AMI assets, or even management of those assets. Now, there are solutions which other countries, utility companies are using, which are AI infused. AI infused throughout the experience. It's like AI being applied to every stage, process of data collection, enrichment, training, query, and it can be experienced by both technicians and administrators. So imagine, if a field force person has a mobile in his hand using a 3G, 4G network, and he wants to look at, the structure, the complex documents, and he can't take, a manual or huge heaps of documents with him. Now, all this, if generated using an AI through his query, whatever he wants to search, I mean, will attract any utility across the world, right? I mean, they want right just-in-time information to do an active approach of, what the person could have done in a week or 10 days. If they have that knowledge extraction, they have those, they can capture the reliability processes and all this with a lot of data already in those systems, in these AI infused systems, right? So imagine usability for even non-technical experts. Clients would want, or the utilities would want, time to value, which will reduce, is actually going to reduce dramatically, because unlike anyone, which is using the old manual systems, and field force is generally manually done, this will cut across the line, and it can help the business and technical experts talk to each other in a quicker manner. OEM to talk to the technician in a quicker manner. So not only this, even when you're talking about things like AI powered diagnosis, so that can enable a technician to leverage a step-by-step troubleshooting experience to help diagnose complex equipment problems. Right? I mean, a meter for a fresher graduate who is just going to install it, it's still a complex equipment to manage, right? It would have sensors, it would have wires, it would have other aspects. So I have seen this AI-based assistance, what we could call it, and that's being used across, at least in the distribution, and transmission and distribution sector, quite a few, especially on the field force management. So that's what I would like to, bring onto the table and give as an example. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kunal. I think what you're alluding is that the data that gets generated by this entire system, it's not just limited to managing the devices or the network itself, but that data can actually be leveraged and technologies can be used for actually improving employee efficiency, as well as customer engagement as well, right? So if you look at all aspects of IT, OT, people, this data can actually help us improve all of those aspects really. Great. Before I move on to the next question, my request to audience would be that we'll be taking question answers towards end of the session. We have kept about 10-12 minutes for that. So, keep keying in your question in the chat window, and the MCs, the admins will pass it on to us. So yeah, so as and when you listen to this conversation and you have questions, just keep typing them in. If possible, I'll try and park them within the discussion. Otherwise, we'll take it towards 10. With that, Mr. Srinivas Murthy, let me come to you. Smart meters, Mr. Srinivas Murthy is from BESCOM. So smart meters are not same as digital meters, right? With respect to installation, maintenance, etc. And as Kunal just talked about that, that for technicians, it can be a pretty complex thing. They can be new to handling on maintaining these assets, repairing them, etc. While contractors are doing the initial installation, etc., how are utilities preparing themselves to handle these activities in-house in long run?
Yeah. Good afternoon. I'm Srinivas from BESCOM. I'm the Assistant General Manager. I just want to give a brief on BESCOM and touch upon the implementation of smart meters in BESCOM, and then I will like to answer to your question. Now, BESCOM manages power distribution in the south part of Karnataka. As part of smart meter implementation, we have done a pilot in one of the Chandapura town, and we have around 1,200 meters in pilot. We are still studying this, the implementation and getting the benefits of it. Now, as part of the pilot, we have a data center which has a huge capacity of storage. to handle the data. And we also have set up the control center in a small setup. Now, coming to your question, I think see, power utilities, our resources can handle the digital meters or the static meters very well. So we have the field engineers, the meter testing departments who can handle the installation and all the maintenance of it. But when it comes to smart meters, it requires a special skills. But since it is not same as the digital meters, so we have to train our field engineers, our MT testing departments, and also our IT department in handling the data which comes from the smart meters, do an analysis of it. So it's still in the process of learning. So it's not easy as any other digital meters. So we have to learn more on it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So, what we understand is that capacity building that still needs to be done. And as industry, I think we need to get together and see how do we really equip people on doing that. Since we're on that topic, Vinayak, if I can come to you, I understand that you're doing a lot of work in how do you really automate all these, helping the field teams do beat remote monitoring, troubleshooting. You're looking at building digital twins for all these aspects. So can you talk a little bit about, all these of course, one is the smart meters and alarms related to meter health, etc. That's coming in to trigger maintenance work, which Kunal also talked about. So have you actually implemented this? Are there some real, live examples of these kind of use cases? And second is, what additionally are you working? What are the possibilities of, what Mr. Srinivas just talked about, that it's all new to the team, right? So remote troubleshooting, digital twin, some of these concepts, if you can talk about, that can actually help the field force really come up the curve quickly.
Yeah. So first of all, I think very importantly, as touched upon by my colleagues or the panelists here. So I think very important aspect with AMI is the MDM part, and something which is very more important is that it has to be an open architecture where it can talk to various kind of software systems and various enterprise teams. And what we deliver and as a solution, and we have done in various utilities, and I'll share some references, is to create a ticketing system, auto ticketing system, first of all on workforce management, as Kunal was also saying, where not only it's linked to only billing operations, it's also linked to ADMS, it's also linked to your SCADA systems, it's also linked to your workforce management, where the operators could get a trigger telling them that there is an issue happening in this area, where and they could be depicted. Of course, it creates a lot of increase in efficiency, because moving from a manual system to an automated system gets in a lot of efficiencies. It also needs a competency development for the field, also field workforce, as Mr. Srinivas said. But this is something which is, of course, it's already there. We have done a big project for a Spanish utility where we had integrated 13 million meters in the same concept, where we have integrated all the systems along with our MDM solution, the smart metering operations and smart metering advisors. Now, with all the data again being collected in through all these and the MDM system, you are able to put in analytics, of course, not only on health of the equipment health, but also in the billing cycle, where you can create a demand-based billing system for the customers. And get into all advanced features on health management and modeling of the system. Analysis of the power system also could be done through that. So it's an end-to-end solution. Of course, the very important fact is this is the application, be it on cloud or on the edge interface, it has to be open. It has to be interoperable with various other systems. Many times there is a challenge where systems could be closed, and it makes things very challenging for utilities.
Thanks for that, Vinayak. My next question I'll pose to two of my panelists, Mr. Ashok Tyagi and Mr. Kunal Virmani. Okay, we have talked about the procurement part of assets, right? But as and when technologies start to get deployed, as you're writing these RFPs and you're procuring the solutions, you also need to start thinking about the exit management part of it. These RFPs are going to be typically for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years period. What happens after that? I mean, the asset has to continue, right? The smart meters and all have to continue, systems have to continue, citizens have to continue getting services. So, Mr. Tyagi, if you can share from your perspective as to what are you looking at, what are you considering as part of the overall exit management process? And then Kunal, if you can add on to that after that, how do you think technology can solve some of the issues as part of exit management? So, Mr. Tyagi, first over to you.
Yeah, this exit management is the very complex situation at present, because the smart meter programs which are going around, they are specific technology based, and whole dependence is on the vendor. Although we are training our personnel, our workforce also side by side, but it takes time. Moreover, these are complex technologies and there is always changes there. Technology always keep on changing, communication, meter technology, all this going on changing. The present contract, what we are implementing is implementation part is for 1 year and this maintenance for 5 years. At present, we are executing 2 smart meter projects. One is under NSGM and other is under IPDS. And about 4.2 lakhs meter we are going to install, out of which we have installed more than 60,000 meters. So this thing will go smoothly till we have the vendor at our disposal. But you are talking about what will happen after 6 years. Because life of the meter is expected to be 10 years or so. So after the vendor exit, we have to take the support for the same vendor for maintaining this technology, because new vendor will not be able to support the technology which is specific with the existing vendors. So the AMC part, what I talked earlier, that will be taken care, and also the operation part we will manage. But if there is some improvement or modification, that will be dependency on the vendor, and we have to get support from that. This is our planning in this scenario.
Kunal, do you want to add on to that? Do you think technology can solve some of these issues, and how do we move forward on that?
Yeah, I would just add and take a cue from what Mr. Tyagi was saying. See, what we have seen generally with the large utility companies, whether it's a state discom or even at a central level, because of this scenario of 1 + 4 years or 1 + 5, whatever it is, after that, if the OEM walks away, the utility gets, they are high and dry. And not that anyone would want to walk away, but there may have been a scenario that the OEMs may not want to continue, or they're in red, or something of that sort happens, and the technology has improvised or changed a lot, and they want to replace instead of just maintaining that particular aspect, that particular meter or rollout. So what we have seen is all this asset management from a technology point of view should start at the time of inception or design work, as I should say that. So even when the meters are being planned to be procured, the asset registers should be the utility companies or whosoever the technology provider should think of, where would I register these assets, where would I register the assemblies, where would I register these warranties, and so on and so forth, inventory for this. So while again, smart meters are a small component of a bigger network, right? Bigger rollout, as everyone knows. And they may not carry more than 5-7% of the value. But again, they are important aspect. Plus, then you're talking about whatever is linked to that particular asset to run it efficiently and in a preventive maintenance fashion over next 5 to 6 or 10 years. All this, if it is in a system, the technology is already there in the market. All this in the system will make sure that the data does not go away from from 5 years, when the 5th year ends and the 6th year starts, or the 6th year ends and 7th year starts, then it is not, then utilities won't be dependent on just one particular vendor for that matter. And of course, while the hardware or if there are warranty issues, if there are replacement of parts, that would come from the vendor. But basic maintenance, basic upgrade, firmware upgrades, all this can happen using the technology, which is there already in the system, right? And it's minuscule part of the overall rollout. Technology, while there are a lot of options available, and if it's properly rolled out, I mean, I won't say it would cost more than 1-2% of the overall budget, not even that sometimes. Yeah.
Sure, thank you. My next question again will go to two of the panelists, Mr. Srinivas Murthy and Mr. Vinayak Misra. We often hear from people that is the TCO of a smart meter rollout, especially for rural areas, really justified. We're talking about 200 to 300 units of consumption. So does smart meter rollout make sense out there? So, first, let me start with Mr. Murthy. If you have some thoughts on, what studies you have done for BESCOM on the overall TCO of smart meters. And then, Vinayak, if you can add on to that, do you really see the role of a smart meter only being limited to billing efficiency, or do you see any other cost benefit TCO justification coming out as part of smart meter rollout? So, Mr. Murthy, first to you.
No, as I said, we are still in pilot, so we are yet to figure out the complete benefit and also the TCO side. And you talked about implementing in the rural areas. I think in rural areas it will be quite challenging because sometimes we don't get the revenue what we are invested in rural areas. So that is a big challenge. So we have to first see it in the the metropolitan areas. Derive the benefits of it, and if the company is well established, then you can think of going for a rural area. Thank you.
Vinayak, do you want to add on to that? Do you see the role of a smart meter only coming from billing efficiency, or do you see some other benefits accruing out of smart meter rollout as well?
So I think one major advantage definitely with smart metering, which gives us, you are able to monitor till the last level of the network, the efficiencies. That really many times when you have a breakdown, you actually send expensive personnel, which is to the ground to inspect and address the issue. Now this could be resolved or could be monitored once we implement this solution. There could be challenges of connectivity. I agree, specifically if it's a GPRS or based system, there could be challenges, but there are technologies coming up where we are talking of maybe something like LoRa, which could be interfacing with smart machines, smart devices over a long period, not depending on these GPRS signals. So definitely it is the future. But yes, there would be a journey, and I think, of course, for cities, it's implemented. It's a quick one, but rural areas is also something which is a definite use case in terms of the long journeys or the distances and the personal cost, which is going up on a daily basis for the utilities.
So for rural areas, you see TCO coming in more from maintenance part of it, troubleshooting, maintenance, and upkeep part of it, and urban areas, of course, is straightforward use case of collection efficiency and things like that. Since we are coming towards end of the thing, let me do one round of rapid fire with all the panelists. And what I would like is, as part of this one is, if the DISCOMs can talk about what are their expectations, one request to industry to make this mission successful. Okay. And when I come to Kunal and Vinayak, if you can talk about one request that you have to DISCOM to make this mission successful. Yeah. So I hope my question is clear. So, the DISCOM has to make one request to industry, what they need industry to do differently to make this mission successful, to 50 million smart meter rollout successful, and industry to request to DISCOM. So let me start with Mr. Ashok Tyagi. What do you think that industry can do differently to make this entire one request to the industry to make this mission successful?
Well, my one request, if you say, that it would be the interoperability of the meters, smart meters, not dependency on particular HES or so. This is the basic requirement so that the monopoly is removed as well as I can get the cost benefit for the future also. So interoperability is the major issue.
Great, thanks. Mr. T. Srinivas, do you want to share your thoughts, your expectation?
Yeah,
I cannot hear you, Mr. Srinivas. Cannot hear you.
hello?
Yeah.
Is it audible?
Yes.
Yeah, we want to have a manufacturers to be on a single platform with a standard specifications, not on their own manufacturer specification, but of course on our discom oriented specifications. Also, for the total India as a country, a single standard specification should be there for all manufacturing agencies, so that we can replace any meter at any point of time with any meter, and also we'll have software solutions on single application. That we want to have.
Thanks. Interoperability, standardization, these are the two terms that we have heard so far. Mr. Reddy, your thoughts, your expectations from industry?
I agree with Ashok Tyagi. That is, the interoperability, uniformity will be there. A uniform standard should be prescribed by all India, pan-India level.
Okay. Mr. Murthy, your expectations from industry?
Yeah, I think it's the same. See, utility has already invested in a lot of IT applications. Naturally, any soft meter developer would come up with his own IT software. So it is best that, whatever the software he comes up should be easy to integrate with the existing software applications. So that's my point.
Okay. Kunal, you want to, two requests I have. One is, your request to discoms on how do we make this successful. And if you want to respond to this request on interoperability and standardization.
Correct. I would first put a small response to the interoperability and standardization, while it's more on the manufacturer side. And when I come in from a software solution point of view. Now, I can speak for myself that at least from IBM, we are making sure that we, as if a utility is choosing our platform, we are not bound to one particular OEM or two particular OEM. We will understand and grab or integrate, I should say, or throw APIs to any and every system out there, and it would be a standard protocol, right? MQTT, for example, is one of the protocols which sensors today generate, send the data from. While it's easier said than done, linked to this, I would make one request, and this maybe at a level, at a ministry level, or or central ministry level, where we as a country, we need to think early, start early, as in, okay, I am going to as a utility company, I'm going to roll out like 100,000 meters or 1 million meters across my state in next 5 years. Now, in order to do that, you need a system, right? Where you should invest early. As I was saying before, that the answers to like what will happen 6 years down the line, what if I have to go for a replacement because of some manufacturer's defect, how do I control my asset life cycle? Can I extend my asset life by even 6 months because maybe I'm maintaining it better? So all this will only come in when we start early. I have seen projects sitting here in Singapore for last 7 years where the construction is not even begin, and people and the clients have already started thinking or implementing of asset management system. So my request is, let's start early. We can improvise. We all have the best of the minds and the best of the technologies out there. So my request is start early. That in your journey of meter rollout from a technology point of view also. That's what.
Yeah, so if I can just summarize, I mean, if I can just paraphrase what you said is, you're saying think of technology as you're thinking of trunk infrastructure alongside, and think of technology holistically, not just piecemeal, that smart meter immediate what I need, but even asset management and all those things should come in early as part of the overall system design, not as a retrofit later point.
Yes, that becomes difficult. Yeah, that becomes difficult. Yeah.
Very valid point, Kunal. Vinayak, again to you, how would you like to respond to the two questions on interoperability and standardization, and your ask to DISCOM on what can be done to make this mission successful?
Yeah, so I think interoperability is a very, very valid need which is there, and as manufacturers and from Schneider, this has always been our intent and to have devices or whatever technology we are making, we have to make it open. That's our mission also. And we intend, and all our applications are designed accordingly. In terms of the expectation from the utilities, I think somewhere when we are doing the procurement, we are very much driven by the initial cost, what comes down, and the decision happens based on that. I think somewhere during the procurement or the evaluation process, there needs to be a total cost of ownership evaluation of a solution in order to classify on what would be good. And as Kunal said, we have to start thinking early about the overall asset health and solution, and choose the solution provider accordingly. Otherwise, you may have someone who may be very aggressive, but maybe there for a very short period. And this leads to a lot of issues. So I think a request would be to see the procurement process to get the total cost of ownership angle also included in the process.
Great, thank you. So what essentially you're saying that at DPR stage itself, look at the overall TCO and not just go by immediate benefits that will accrue while designing the RFPs, etc. Now, now it's time for us to move to panel to question answers from the audience. I already see a few questions coming in from the audience, but my request to audience would be keep keying in a few more questions, keep keying in more questions. We'll take as many as time permits, but yeah, we would really see to some questions and engagement coming in from people. The first question that we have is that I'll pick up is, it says, are we implementing automated maintenance mechanism or intelligent electronic devices? Vinayak, do you want to take this question?
So what we are talking of is automated maintenance mechanism in terms of issuing automated maintenance work orders or notices to the mobile workforce, utility workforce to manage it. We probably are still not at the phase where the meters could detect and resolve their own issues in terms of technology. But yes, with more and more data and analytics coming in, I think we would be probably in that phase maybe in next 5 to 10 years time. But currently we are more on how efficiently we can manage the mobile workforce.
Thanks. Mr. Reddy, if I can pass on the next question to you. The question is, what should be the policy for smart meter defects? And in that case, how to collect data and billing?
Repeat again.
What should be the policy for smart meter defects? And in that case, how to collect data and do the billing? I mean, you can maybe generalize this to smart meter defects in the smart meter itself during troubleshooting time if they are down. Even network downtime, etc., can come under that, right? So how do we handle? I'm just paraphrasing the question that has come in. I hope I am correct. This is what the person intends to ask. That if the smart meter itself is down, in those situations, how do you collect the data and how do you handle billing?
As of now, in the manual system also, there is a set procedure is there, and we'll be keeping and analyzing the previous data of the previous months, and average billing can be done with that. You can get the previous data and same month and the season and everything. You collect data, you can bill average accordingly.
Thanks for that. And if I can just add, I mean, see, smart meters are designed to send data every 15 minutes, 30 minutes or so, right? Whereas billing happens once in a month. So even if your kind of connectivity breaks down for some period of time, you can still get that data for doing billing purpose and things like that. Yeah, you will not get granular visibility for advanced analytics and things like that. I think billing, etc., can still proceed. And as you said, Mr. Reddy, that currently the practice is that if you're not able to collect a monthly reading, then you take it basis past year, same month, seasonality, trend, and those kind of things at times. Next question, Mr. Tyagi, if I can pass that on to you. The question is how to avoid high cost when it comes to total system refurbishment.
Please repeat the question. I couldn't hear you properly.
The question is how to avoid high cost when it comes to total system refurbishment.
Well, to control the high cost when refurbishing the system, it is really tough because interfacing the new equipment with the old existing equipment, this matching is difficult. Moreover, the maintenance cost increases. So it is very difficult. We have to change. We can plan in the modular system. That would be better. If we take the modular system, we can replace the modules and refurbish the system. But refurbishing the existing system with some particular part, it is not easy, and always there is an integration problem. So that is the issue there. So modular system is the best system for refurbishing the system.
Modular and plug and play kind of a system to refurbish. Yeah, thank you. Next question, Kunal, if I can pass on to you. It says if you can provide more inputs on enterprise-wide AMI system and elaborate on that, please.
So enterprise-wide AMI, okay, so from an asset management perspective, let's take a step back. From an AMI perspective, what all would it consist apart from the smart meters, right? The whole communication network, head-end aspect, of course the sensors associated during the the commissioning part, not during the commissioning, just not commissioning, but during the whole project part, and then continuous use of the whole infrastructure which is behind these smart meters, right? And sending and even the smart meters are bi-directional these days. So if I want to cover each of this in one holistic enterprise-wide asset management systems, there are in the market. Of course, we have one, and I'm sure there are others. I mean, there are others in the market, right? And what we need to do is link it together. That dependency of a meter is not just on the end, the rollout at the end side. It is from the time it's started, from a communication point of view, or any cabling, or it can be anything, right? It can be at a end client side as well. So all this is enterprise. Now, how do you manage this in a system? Is using the technology. Technology will let you help projects roll out this in a fashion where you're not going to miss any dead end, right? And things like I mean, I know digital twin may be an uphill task in this particular aspect, but people are using digital twin for models for implementation or the maintenance of such projects or such life cycle of any assets. So yeah, there are systems, there are softwares that support them, and then there are and it can support not just one end client, which is a smart meter in this case, but overall network, overall assets involved in this aspect.
Thank you so much. I think with that we have come to anyways end of the hour, and we have taken almost all the questions that we had from audience on this. I think just to summarize what we discussed was one is when you look at smart metering rollout, look at not just smart meters, but end-to-end lot of other assets that go into the overall solution. We talked about how data from smart meters can actually be used not just for improving not just for billing and operations purpose. They can be used for automating a lot of asset maintenance activities, doing predictive maintenance of assets. We also talked about how that data can be used for improving employee efficiency, remote troubleshooting, remote management, not having people to go on field to do a lot of activities, especially rural areas, how that can help. We talked about how district twins can be created to actually simulate and see what better efficiencies we can get and things like that. On challenges front, on way forward front, my takeaway was the need for standardization and interoperability. It is something that we hear very often, and I think as industry, there are attempts being made by Ministry of Power, NSGM, etc., to come up with standards around these areas, empaneling entities and doing those kind of activities. Thanks to all my fellow panelists for sharing their thoughts, spending time, taking time out for this session. Many thanks to everyone, and thanks to the audience for listening in, dialing in, and for your questions and keeping that session engaged. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody, and I hope you all had a great time, and we had a very, very informative session.